Galactic Unification, Chapter 1. The Shadows from the Stars, Pate 2. First contact uninvited. The subtle distortions, the nudges at the edge of the solar system, the phantom energy signatures, they were no longer whispers from the void. They coalesced, amplified, and then, with a violence that ripped through the fabric of spacetime itself, they became manifest. It was not a gradual emergence, not a shy peek from behind a cosmic veil. It was an invasion, a sudden, brutal assertion of presence that plunged humanity from a state of bewildered apprehension into a chilling, stark reality. From a point beyond the furthest reaches of human observation, a tear appeared in the velvet blackness. It was not a smooth transition, but a violent rending, as if the universe itself had been sliced open by an impossibly sharp blade. Through this nascent fissure, colossal forms began to bleed into existence. They were ships, though the term felt insultingly inadequate. These were not vessels of exploration or diplomacy. They were instruments of annihilation, behemoths of obsidian that swallowed light and dwarfed even the grandest celestial bodies. They hung in the void like shards of solidified darkness, blotting out stars, casting impossibly long, hungry shadows that stretched across interstellar distances. Dr. Eris Thorne watched from the lunar observatory, his face pale, his breath catching in his throat. The holographic displays, once filled with the comforting, predictable ballet of celestial mechanics, were now dominated by these impossible shapes. They were gargantuan, their forms angular and menacing, utterly alien and devoid of any discernible aesthetic appeal. They seemed to absorb all surrounding light, appearing as voids against the starry backdrop, their surfaces impossibly smooth, impossibly dark. The initial energy readings had been mere echoes. This was the source, a fleet that had bypassed every known barrier, every theoretical speed limit, materializing with a terrifying, silent efficiency. Magnification, Alara. Thorne's voice was a strained whisper, barely audible above the rising thrum of his own heart. Maximum magnification on those, all of them. Alara Vance, her usual scientific detachment shattered, her fingers flying across the consoles with a desperate urgency, complied. The images sharpened, revealing a fleet of staggering proportions. Hundreds, perhaps thousands, of these monolithic vessels filled the monitors, arranged in formations that spoke of deliberate intent, of strategic deployment. There were smaller craft, sleek and predatory, darting between the colossal behemoths like vipers around titans. The sheer scale was incomprehensible, a testament to a technological prowess that dwarfed anything humanity had ever conceived. They're not broadcasting any identification signals, Alara stammered, her voice cracking. No known protocols, no interstellar handshake, nothing. They don't need one, Thorne replied, his gaze fixed on the largest of the alien vessels, a structure that seemed to defy gravity and scale, its bulk so immense it appeared to be a fragment of a shattered moon. They're not here to talk. The first act of this unwelcome arrival was not a communication, but a declaration of war, delivered with a devastating finality. A ripple, imperceptible to the naked eye but devastating in its effect, swept across the space separating the alien fleet from the inner solar system. It was not a sound, not a visible wave, but a seismic shift in the electromagnetic spectrum, a sudden, overwhelming surge of power. On Earth, and on the burgeoning human settlements across the Moon and Mars, the world plunged into chaos. Communication networks, the very nervous system of global civilization, flickered and died. Satellites went dark. Interplanetary relays became useless static. It was as if an invisible hand had reached out and severed every digital thread that bound humanity together. The sudden silence was more terrifying than any noise. Then came the rain of fire. From the colossal obsidian ships, beams of pure incandescent energy lanced out. They were not the familiar lasers of human science fiction, but torrents of raw, focused power that tore through planetary defenses, through orbital stations, and directly into the heart of cities. The sky itself seemed to weep fire as cities, gleaming metropolises that represented decades of human achievement, were instantaneously vaporized or reduced to smoldering craters. The assault was not indiscriminate, but terrifyingly precise. Key infrastructure, military installations, centers of governance. They were targeted with an efficiency that spoke of advanced reconnaissance and a chilling understanding of human vulnerabilities. Tokyo, London, New York, Beijing, ancient hubs of culture and innovation, became incandescent pyres, their skylines dissolving in blinding flashes of light. The screams of millions were swallowed by the roar of explosions, a symphony of destruction that echoed across a planet suddenly stripped bare. On Luna, Thorne and his team watched in horror as their home world was systematically dismantled. The colony's deep space telescopes, designed to observe the furthest reaches of the cosmos, were now trained on Earth, delivering a visceral, immediate feed of the unfolding catastrophe. Images flickered across their screens, the iconic silhouette of the Eiffel Tower vanishing in a silent explosion, the densely packed towers of Shanghai melting like wax, the ancient pyramids of Giza being engulfed by a searing white light. "My God," breathed Dr. Jian Li, his voice choked with emotion, as he watched the orbital trajectory of a vital deep space communication satellite designed to relay vital data between Earth and Mars abruptly cease to exist. "They're not just attacking, they're unmaking us." The speed and scale of the destruction were beyond anything humanity had prepared for. Decades of theoretical study, of war games and contingency plans felt laughably inadequate. The alien armada moved with a swiftness that defied comprehension, their weapons unleashing a destructive potential that humanity had only dreamed of, or, more accurately, had only feared. Panic, a primal, unreasoning force, began to grip the globe. With communications severed and the sky raining fire, the carefully constructed veneer of civilization began to crumble. Reports, fragmented and panicked, filtered through whatever residual local networks remained, soldiers fighting with desperate courage against an enemy they could barely comprehend, civilians fleeing the burning ruins of their homes, their faces etched with terror. The alien presence was not just a physical threat, it was an existential one. It shattered humanity's comfortable narrative of itself as the apex of intelligence on Earth, perhaps even in the galaxy. The universe, once a canvas for human dreams and aspirations, was revealed to be a battlefield, teeming with powers far beyond their understanding, powers that viewed humanity not as equals, but as an infestation to be eradicated. Thorne, his mind reeling, felt a profound sense of despair wash over him. The unified front, the nascent hope for a new era of human cooperation that had been whispered about in the aftermath of minor skirmishes with rogue asteroid belts and theoretical existential threats, seemed like a distant, naive dream. This was not a threat that could be reasoned with or defended against with the tools they possessed. This was an extinction event, delivered with chilling, alien efficiency. "They've disabled every orbital defense platform," Ilara reported, her voice flat, devoid of emotion. She looked up from her console, her eyes wide and unseeing. "Every probe, every satellite, gone. The fleet is now moving towards the moon." The Obsidian ships, having unleashed their initial fury upon Earth, began to shift their focus. Their immense forms, like dark gods descending from the heavens, began to orient themselves towards humanity's closest celestial neighbor. The cold, stark beauty of the lunar landscape, the testament to humanity's first tentative steps beyond its cradle, was now about to become a new theater of war. The silence that had preceded the storm was now replaced by a deafening roar, a testament to a universe far more dangerous and a humanity far more fragile than anyone had ever dared to imagine. The shadow from the stars had fallen, and it was a shadow of annihilation,